Hello everyone, welcome back. So this is my final video for today, and I'm going to be doing a reading of A Final Page in Murder by Hermione Valino, the first book in the Book Nook mystery series. This is going to be a service I'm offering for free. You do not need to join a Patreon account to be able to listen to the audiobook. I am going to try to upload this onto TikTok, but the fact is that I am in a very dim area. I don't know. So what I may just end up doing is I may just end up reading this in some place that has a lot of light and put that on TikTok. So yeah. So hope you guys will enjoy it. And I'll read you the synopsis of it just in case you haven't gone on Amazon to see it. So I'm also using my flashlight. Welcome to Waterhorse, a small town with friendly people. It's also home to the newest bookshop, the Book Nook. It's also a great place to commit murder, as Barbara finds out the hard way. Barbara Market has returned to her hometown of Waterhorse to escape Chicago and her life as an author. With her two kittens, Ming and Ching, she opens the Book Nook, a new and used bookstore. However, things don't go as planned when she gets the unwanted attention of Misty Hart, owner of the longest-running bookstore in Waterhorse, who wants to add Barbara's bookstore to her list of rivals that she hates with a passion. When Missy ends up dead hours after she threw a book at Barbara's kittens, Detective Hawk views her as a suspect. Soon others meet their ends, and Barbara and her friends must find out who's knocking off the booksellers before the killer closes the book on Barbara's. Okay. This book is dedicated to my mother, Brenda Valino, that never lived to see it published. She will always be in my heart. Love you and miss you. So I won't be looking directly at the camera. I'll be looking at the thing. Chapter 1. The sun rose in the sky over a small town blanketed in several feet of snow. It looked like something out of a Hallmark Christmas card, with snow and flying past windows. It had been a day that made you want to stay home and not even put any part of your body outside. However, Barbara Market knew she couldn't stay inside with a hot cocoa and a good book. The chubby, black-haired, green-eyed owner couldn't afford to hide behind her four walls anymore. Today was the grand opening of her new store called the Book Nook, and she was determined to make it successful. The Book Nook would be in a two-story space with almost any book you could imagine. It was also a great place to get e-readers for those who didn't want to travel to the large city and put up with the large crowds. She also liked to have a food and drink bar as well, but she also had a slight problem with the little fact that she had also decided to purchase a Siamese pair who would be spending much time on the desk, looking at everyone that might come in as though they had done something wrong. She had chosen the Blue Point Siamese and found the young kittens loyal, charming, and loud. The woman who had sold them to her told her she wouldn't have to worry about kittens. There'd be no spraying, no screaming, no kittens. Not that she minded more sweethearts, but she doubted her kitchen could take any more padded feet. She loved them, and they loved her. So she packed the carrier with them and headed out into the cold, dark world. The Book Nook still had half of its shelves filled with new and used books. The case had to be filled with e-readers and locked, and her cats had to know where their litter box, which was in the back, was located. When she arrived, 3 other cars older than her sleek black Mercedes were parked in the small lot assigned to her customers and the 3 employees she had hired. "Why do we have winter?" Sam Holds asked Barbara when she went to unlock the back door and turn off the alarm. Sam was a thin man in his late 20s, with blonde hair and gray eyes. Today he wore a sweatshirt that read, "I read banned books," on the front. "To punish us for complaining about summer," Sally Down answered, her short brown hair showing static when she took her hat off. Everyone knows that." Barbara had to laugh at the answer that Sally had given. Once inside, they turned on all the lights, turned on the heat, and got to work on the 30 boxes still needed to be unpacked. "I need coffee," Sally told them. "This winter weather sucks all the energy out of me." "It's in the back," Barbara told her, putting her purse on the desk, along with all the other stuff that goes with it. "Thanks," she said, and she vanished into the back. Soon the sounds of coffee being made replaced the silence. The other employees, Sam's partner, pulled out one of the boxes from the Amazon truck that had arrived 2 days ago. He cut it open and almost let out a scream of horror. Barbara and Sam went over to see what had greeted him, to find the cover of a book with a screaming woman in it, covered in blood and having her eyes popping out of her head. "God, what made the author think this was a good cover?" he asked them. Barbara knew the reason. For 20 years, she had published horror and mystery books. She got at least 7 sample covers. For the horror ones, the illustrator decided to get so disgusting that she had to clarify that her job was to write books, not send people to the ER. "He's popular," Sam told him. "He's not popular with me," Daniel stated. And then he started to unpack the 11 Charlie Highway books that had come in. "Are we going to have book signings?" Sam asked Barbara. "One day," Barbara answered. "Right now, I don't know anyone with any new books coming out." She might have been an author once, but that didn't mean that she knew all the books coming out. Like a public library, the Book Nook divided readers based on the subject, from American history to Thomas the Train Engine. However, she made it a point to buy both hardcovers and paperbacks of her books when she could. The front 2 tables would be for books featured on social media and new releases that had been out for a couple of months. Social media had done a lot to change how people read. She was happy on one side and horrified on the other. On the plus side, however, she was glad that book reading was no longer considered something that, quote-unquote, nerds did. And Barbara should know. Other children would tease her love of reading, and take her books from her. With book bans and different things happening, most people believe reading books is significant and makes you money. Sam gathered most of the books to go upstairs and slowly walked up the long flight of stairs. Sally came back with her cup of coffee. "Who screamed?" she asked. "Daniel," Barbara answered. "How many of these Cat Who books do we have?" Sam called out from the second floor. "Most of them," Barbara called out. "I believe that I ordered some in paperback as well." As they worked, Barbara checked the list so that she would make sure that everything was where it was to be. Barbara and Sally set up the tables for the social media sweetheart books and the 5 new releases in August. They then locked the e-readers in the cabinet and checked out the work. "Not bad," Sally said, looking around. "Everything that you're ever wanted." "So true," Barbara gushed. "But it's still a job I'm hoping people will enjoy." "I know they will." The Captain's Inn is a small diner not too far from the Book Nook. Since Barbara had lived in Waterhouse most of her life, and the town she had created had a bit of the city in them, she was friendly with the owner. Tommy Smalls was proud of the diner he had inherited from his father, whose father founded it around the last part of the 1800s. Barbara was sad to learn, during her time away from home, that Tommy's father had passed away from ill health. Still, he looked as much like his father when he was younger, and it sometimes gave her shudders. Not that Tommy could help it. She sat down at her usual spot. The others joined her. Tommy came over and smiled at them all. Barbara wished she could return it, but her teeth weren't white and healthy. "The usual?" he asked. "Yes," Barbara answered, and he wrote it down and left. "I hope the kittens don't destroy things while we're gone," Sam said as Tommy returned with a juice pitcher. "If they don't want to be grounded for life, they won't," Barbara stated. The inn was known for something else besides good food. It was good timing. Their food arrived within 15 minutes, and Barbara moaned in pleasure as at the biscuits and gravy coming into contact with her taste buds. It should be a sin, Daniel told them. I'm going to agree, Sally said, and so did Barbara. The Book Nook officially opened at 9 that morning. The cash had been put in the drawers, and the internet was working, and everyone was ready for whatever customers they would get. 20 minutes later, the door opened, and a man Barbara was sure she had never met walked in. He had a balding head, had his face framed in wire-rimmed glasses, and wore a tweed suit. "Welcome to the Book Nook," Sally said, with the smile she always gave. "Yes, I'm looking for a book by Daniel Steele," he told them. "Follow me," she said, and Barbara watched as she helped him. The kittens gave a look that told her that they didn't like him. When he came back, he had 4 books by Daniel Steele. Barbara rang them up, and he handed his card over. She placed the books inside one of the temporary bags until her own could arrive later that week. "So are you new to town?" Barbara asked him. "No, I work at the university," he answered. "What do you teach?" Barbara asked, hoping that her tone was friendly. "Literature," he answered. It cleared, and she handed him back his card, and he was gone. "Must be nice to teach literature," Sally said to Barbara. "I tried," Barbara told her, which made Sally look at her. "What, shocked that I was, at one time, a teacher?" "I thought you wrote most of your life," she said. "I did, but I also taught," Barbara said, and it was an amazing experience. "You do have to tell me everything," Barbara laughed. That afternoon she was surprised that the local paper wanted to do an article about the Book Nook. When she decided to open the store, she had made it clear she wasn't interested in doing interviews. That's all she did in her former life, and she got tired of that quickly. "People just love your books," the reporter told Barbara. "I don't know." "Come on, Miss Market, it'll be good for you," Sally assured her. "I mean, what's the worst that could happen?" That's not something you ever utter around someone who has written for 20 years and of her life. However, she agreed to do the interview despite not wanting to do it. "So, what made you decide to open a bookstore?" the reporter asked her. They were in her office, and Sally had gotten them both drinks. She told Barbara she could handle things while talking to the reporter. "I've always wanted to have one," Barbara answered. "I think there's something wonderful and magical about a place where books live. Every book is a little adventure, and you can get people through many harsh things. I know the books helped me out when I was younger and not popular." "Do you worry that people know that you, a prolific author, have a shop when the town already has one?" "The town has no problem with me opening my shop," Barbara told him. "And while I know the shop that you're talking about, plenty of others still do the same thing that I do." "True, but none of them are you." Barbara knew that nothing that she said would change this man's mind. When Barbara was a small child, her mother had taken her to many shops that sold everything from dishes that came from estate sales to books. Barbara loved them all, but her favorite was Enchanting Reads. The woman, Misty, had been such a lovely lady. However, age had changed her. From what Sam had told her, Misty was no longer the sweet woman she had been. She was cold, distant, and determined to be the only bookseller in town. Did it worry Barbara? Of course not. There was nothing that she sold that was a danger to Misty's business. At least, that's what she kept telling herself. When 5 came around, they closed their doors, locked them, and counted the money. They had only sold about 20 books, but still it had been an excellent first day. When Barbara returned home, she let the kittens out of their travel carrier and got her bath running. The house that she bought was around 30 years old. It had a large living room, dining area, 4-bedroom, and the most extensive library Barbara had ever seen. She had taken upon herself to fill it with everything she loved reading growing up. Tonight, Barbara was in the middle of a spy novel her mother had told her about. After her bath, she fed the kittens, who were upset that she delayed their meals by 5 minutes. Then she picked up the book and started reading. The following day, the promised article arrived. Much to Barbara's horror, it didn't put the book nook in a favorable light. So much for nothing wrong happening around here. She read it once over and then twice. A new competitor in town. "Who the hell is he fooling?" Sam asked, looking at the headline. "Probably plenty," Sally said, shaking her head. The Book Nook, Water Horse's new bookstore, opened yesterday. The two-story space in what used to be the old Smithstone clothing store has the scent appeal that caused Smithstone to go out of business. The top floor is dedicated to hardback, and the bottom floor is devoted to paperback and the horrible invention, the e-reader. "The e-reader isn't a horrible invention," Barbara chimed in. "And who told us not to let things get to us?" Daniel pointed out. Barbara ignored him and continued reading. The shop is owned by former New York Times best-selling author of books in both horror and mystery genre, half of which has been challenged by 10 states by the name of Barbara Market. "Only 10, Sally said, "and I thought it was all 50 of them. I think Waterhorse was among those who tried to get my young adult horror books removed," Barbara told her. Sally raised an eyebrow and asked, "For what reason?" "Because all of them are stupid," she answered. "Nothing more, nothing less. And who says a bunch of old biddies don't do anything with their lives?" Most will agree that we have enough bookstores to last several lifetimes. Let's just hope the Book Nook goes the same way as the clothing store, far away from us. "What a horrible man," Sam said, closing his paper copy. "I think he wants people to hate my shop just because of who I am," Barbara pointed out. "However, I'm not about to let this jerk get a rise out of me. I'm far too old and too sensible for that." Wish I could think that way. "Which is why you're in jail half the time." That earned a glare and crossed arms from Sally. When the shop opened a couple hours later, a long line of people waited for Sam to unlock the door. In their usual spot, the kittens glared at people they didn't like and ignored those they probably would care about later on. When Barbara had decided to buy a pair of bonded cats, she had no idea how right Braun had been about them. She wondered if the deceased author had ever had a couple herself. She watched as Sally helped a family find books for their children. They sold 2 e-readers and a couple of horror books. Her collection of books, which she had gotten from her publisher, were among them. "Excuse me," a man asked, and Barbara turned to see a short man standing there. "What can I do for you?" she asked him. "Well, I read this article about your shop," he said, and Barbara mentally groaned. "And I was wondering if you have any horror books here." "I have several of them," I answered, glad that... I should have said she answered. She answered, glad that that's all he wanted. "I'll show you where they are." Misty Hart, a tall, thin woman with short gray hair and plenty of age lines on her face, hated anyone who came into her town and tried to force her out of business. The same could be why she was standing across the street from that horrible new shop called the Book Nook. When she had read the article, her vision turned red. How dare some famous writer think she could come into town and open her shop? "I'm going to make that little bitch pay for this," she vowed. "Honey, this isn't worth getting worked over," her husband told her. "Everyone has the right to open their shop." "Shut up, Chuck," Misty snarled, and then she marched across the street, her husband following. "Honey, don't." She jerked the door open and stormed in, singing screams from 2 small animals on the counter. She hated new people. She hated cats. Nasty creatures had no business near books. Both kittens yowled at her, the tone making everyone turn and look. "What the... How dare you think of opening this trash pit that you call a bookstore? How dare you think that you have that right? And those cats! I can't stand cats! Get them away from the books!" "My cats aren't bothering anyone," the woman told her. I'll be the judge of that. And she grabbed a book and threw it right at them. Chuck pulled her back as a woman behind the counter yelled at her, "Misty, let's get out of here before they call the police on you." "I don't care. I want you out of this town." "I live here," the woman screamed back. "And if you don't leave me alone, it'll be the last thing you ever do." Chuck dragged her out and back to the store. Why do I have a feeling that old mad cootie Misty is going to sue you for threatening her? "She threw a book at my babies," Barbara told Sam. "What would you have done?" "Hit her over the head with an e-reader," Sam answered. "Why does any act of violence involve using an e-reader?" "Because they're stronger than they look," Sam answered. "It also proves that words can be excruciating." "I should have known that something was going to happen when that article came out." "Barbara, no one knew he would put down your stellar. I mean, he only writes wonderful articles about new businesses." "Yeah, but not this time," Sam pointed out. And I think that Barbara should have had the right to tell him where he could go. And he didn't write down any of the answers to the questions he asked me. I don't think he intended to do that. He just wanted to try and make you look bad, Sam told her. "Well, I doubt anything else could go wrong with my day," Barbara told them. "Let's get closed up and forget this day even happened." Barbara spent most of the remaining afternoon and evening talking to her sister. She told her what had happened and asked what she should do. "I wouldn't worry about it," her sister said. "I mean, what is the most that Misty Hart can do to you?" "I don't know," Barbara said. "I mean, I've never seen anyone that mad in all my life. And she threw a book at Ming and Ching." "What? She threw a book at the babies?" Everyone in the family considered Ming and Ching to be their babies. To throw anything at them was an offense punishable by death. "They didn't like it," Barbara said. "Misty went on and on about how my cats had no business around the books and wanted to prove it by throwing the book at them." "I hope that people were horrified," she said. "I think everyone was just shocked," Barbara said. "Who would have thought that a woman in her 50s could do something like that?" "It makes you wonder what else she can do," her sister reasoned. "I don't think I could handle the thought of anything else that she can do," Barbara stated, petting Ching's head. "I'm just glad they weren't hurt or killed by her. I'm still taking them with me tomorrow because they love being inside the store. I hope that Missy doesn't decide to come back for round 2. "I hope not either," her sister said. "I need to do a drink." The following day, Barbara brought breakfast from home and a container of hot coffee for her friends. After putting the cats on the floor and opening their carrier, Sam, Daniel, and Sally started to dive into the food. "Any packages arriving today?" Sally asked her. "I'm almost out of my 3rd book, Chamber of Blood." I had to do that. "So I will contact the publisher and have 20 copies brought in." "No offense, Barbara, but that book wasn't my favorite," Sally said, and the 2 men snorted with laughter. "What? That book was on the Times list for 7 months," Sam reminded her. "Guys, not everyone liked the book," Barbara told him, "and I'm fine with that." The cats, of course, made it clear that they agreed with their mistress. When they opened their doors at 9, 3 people came in and asked at once if the kittens were okay. "My daughter got upset when that horrible woman threw a book at the kitties." Ching made it clear he hated being called the kitty. "Hush," Barbara scolded. "If someone wants to call you a kitty, they have their right." Ching showed his back. "Anyway, I hope you do something about it. She's a grown woman, for God's sake." "I can file a report, but I doubt something will be done to her," Barbara told her. "Of course, she might get fined. I don't know." Barbara had never had anyone try to harm her cats before, and she didn't like the feeling. Well, I told my baby girl we won't be shopping at her store soon. As much as Barbara hated that Misty had thrown a book at her cats, which had caused plenty of people to be upset, she didn't think the woman should lose business. However, she wasn't about to tell this woman, whose daughter had been hurt by the actions of one woman, that she was wrong in how she felt. "How about a lollipop?" Barbara suggested, taking one out of a plastic jar she would give to customers' children. "Thanks," she said, accepting it and giving it to her daughter, who thanked her. The couple moved past her and went looking through her books. Barbara pointed out that the store would be closed for a full hour, allowing her employees to go out and get some things done. As for her, she headed for the bank to put the day's money into her account. It was so, yeah. The 10th National Bank had been a staple of Waterhorse for as long as the town needed a bank. It had survived the massive bank closing of the Great Depression, and the building that it was in was a national landmark. Rumor was that Bonnie and Clyde had tried to rob the bank during their multi-state crime spree. Upon entering the ancient building, she found it wasn't as crowded as usual. She joined the small line of people being waited on, and 5 minutes later she was next. "I can't believe it!" the girl almost screamed, which made Barbara almost drop her bank envelope. The Barbara Market. Despite being used to it, Barbara still wondered if this was how the Beatles felt when their hordes of fans came around and swarmed them. "Oh, I thought Chamber of Blood was amazing!" "Take that, Sally!" "I'm glad that you enjoyed it," Barbara said to her, hoping to get back to the subject of money being taken care of. "If I bring my book to your store, will you sign it?" she asked Barbara. "Sure, no problem," Barbara said. "My money?" "Of course," she said with a massive smile. Barbara was so glad that the woman vanished into the back. When she was done, she walked across the lobby to the doors. She had 20 minutes to return to the store so her workers could get back inside. The weather wasn't for the faint of heart, and the sea air worsened several times. She had just touched the handle when she heard her name being called. She turned to see Mrs. Drew running over to her as fast as her high heels would let her. Mrs. Carol Drew was a tall, middle-aged woman who had, at one time, watched her when she was little. She knew that Carol Drew loved to brag that she had known Barbara before she had become rich and famous. Her graying hair spoke of years on Earth and the 11 children. I don't understand how many grandchildren she had now. "I'm glad I caught you," she said. "Which is a bad time," Barbara reminded her. "There is no such thing as a bad time," Carol stated, as though she knew more just because she was older than the former author. "What can I do for you?" Barbara asked her, hoping that she could get this over and return to her store's warmth. "I heard what happened yesterday," hadn't anyone, "and I must say that what Missy did was unclothed and distasteful." Did this woman even know what the word unclothed meant? Probably not. "Yes, I was shocked that it happened," Barbara said. "And the kitties fine?" "Yes, they're fine," Barbara said, though some of the children weren't happy about it. "I can imagine," Miss Drew said. "Shocking, completely shocking." Barbara doubted that since all her children now adults looked like nothing shocking ever happened to them. "Mrs. Drew, I need to go. My shop reopens soon, and I don't want to leave my people out in the cold." "Of course, my dear," she said, and Barbara hurried away. All right. Let's see. Okay. Oh, wow. All right. So that's the first chapter. I can tell right away there is some errors in this book that I will have to go back and fix. But overall, I hope you did enjoy chapter 1 of this book. And this book, I am not going to post this on TikTok because this is nearly 30 minutes long. So, as I said, every day I will be reading a chapter. And as for the errors, sometimes errors do get, like, I don't notice them. But I will correct them and re-upload the new manuscript and all that. But until then, you get to read the book with whatever errors might be in it. So, Anyways, I will let you guys go. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please leave me a comment down below. I will appreciate it, good or bad. You will get love. So I will see you guys around. Bye.